This video is going to be about estimating with fractions. So when we're estimating with fractions, we still want to remember our estimating rule, where when we think about the halfway point, if we get to a halfway point between two places, so let's call this place A and place B. If we get to the halfway point between two places, then we continue on to point B. If we have not arrived at the halfway place, then we return to point A. This rule is going to follow us into estimating with fractions. So the easiest one to look at is to start with literally our half. So let's take a half and a whole. If I have a half, I have two options. So we can think about benchmark fractions. Well, a half is a benchmark fraction. So some people will choose to keep it at a half and take their other fraction to a half. Sometimes we just want to go to the whole number. In that case, if we're at a half, we're at the halfway point. So we say we have a whole. Now, let's talk about this halfway point, and let's go ahead and bring in sixths. Well, if I have a sixth, I'm not at the halfway point yet. So I would go back to the whole number before. I'm even less than half if I have a sixth. So let's say I have 2 sixths. Well, now that I have 2 sixths, if I wanted to go to the nearest half, I would be only 1 away from getting to a half. So I could estimate 2 sixths at about a half. Or it's less than a half, so if I'm going to the whole number, I would go back to the lesser whole right here. For now, we're just going to deal with rounding to the nearest whole with our fractions. So let's take a look at thirds. So if I had 1/3, 1/3 is less than half. So I would go back to the other whole number. So let's say I had 5 1/3. If I had the number 5 1/3, I'm going back to 5 because 1/3 is less than half. Now let's say I had 2/3. So what if our number was 5 2/3? Well, 2/3 is more than half. So that means I'm going to go to the next whole number. So I would estimate 5 2/3 as 6. So now let's look at another set of fractions. We're going to continue using our benchmark fraction of a half and keeping our whole out here. So the next we're going to do is we're going to look at fourths. So I want you to think for a minute. You can pause the video. If I had a fourth, do I go to the lower number or up to the next whole number? So let's give ourselves an example. I will switch colors so that we can see our new example. And our new example is going to be 4 1/4. And you're trying to decide, if I'm estimating, am I going to go down to 4 or up to 5? Because 4 1/4 falls about here on our number line. Between 5, if this was 4, and 5. You are correct. It would go backwards to the 4 because it is not at the halfway mark yet. Now, what if we had 2/4? 2/4, that's exactly at the halfway mark. That's right here. And what we know about estimating and rounding is that's going to take us up to the next number. So if it was 4 2/4, I'm going to go up to 5, the next whole number. What if I added another fourth? So now I have 3/4. So now I have 4 3/4. Well, 3/4 we can see is more than half. So I'm going to go up to 5. So let's look at another set. Let's look at fifths. So here we know it takes 5/5 to make a whole. And we're going to do another example. So now my example I'm going to switch to is I'm going to switch to what if my number was 3 1/5. Well, if I'm on a number line, then my 3 is here, 3 1/2 might be here, and my 4 is here. So I am between a 3 and a 4. So those are my only options here if I'm going to the nearest whole number. So let's check out what a fifth looks like against a half. Well, a fifth is less than a half. So that means I'm going back to 3. Now, what if we had 4/5? So we can see here 4/5 is much more than a half. So 4/5 is going to take us up to the next number. So if we were looking at our number line, we would have 3 4/5 here. And we can see that's going to be closer to my 4 on the number line. So 3 4/5 would take me to a 4. So I hope this helps you understand the skill of estimating with fractions.